Abandoned House, Ivana Daniela Navas Zavala, Johnny Morales Barraza, Juan Darío Nicolás Mendoza. Halloween it was celebrated at the end of the Arbor season in Ireland to kick off the Celtic New Year. During that night, it was believed that the spirits of the deceased walked among the living, and secret festivals and rites were held that include communication with the dead. In addition, it was customary to place and litter claims in the windows so that the dead found their way. Many years later, Harry was living on Wall Street in New York. All curious of outgoing 12 years old boy with his parents and little brother Tom. In front of his house was abandoned house in very bad condition. The neighbors said that at night there was a lot of noise. In that house, nobody knew why since it was uninhabited. Many thought it was because of the animals' strange state to sleep. There are some others that someone lived there. On October 31, Harry attended school discovering because he did not like Halloween. His friends told him what they were going to dress up. Some said it was a pumpkin, others a werewolf, and others a joker, and tried to convince Harry that dress up and spend the night with them. Harry said, think about it. On the way home, Harry realized that there was a lit candle in the window of the abandoned house. It seemed very strange to him since no one entered that house. Arriving at his house, he called his friends and told them that he was accompanying them to trick or treating on the condition that they would later visit the abandoned house. His friend accepted. Harry disguised himself as a ghost, only putting on a sheet on Tom and some glasses so he won't fall off. His Tom night came and it was time to go try or treating. Harry and his friends go together in the park to start their tour of the dress on Wall Street and get lost of sweets, but this year Halloween was very strange.
Very few children went out trick or treat, and there were no police taking care of friends that the dice was very strange, and he didn't have a good feeling about it. But his friends told him, don't worry, that it was not happening, nothing. Was just another day of the year. Each one carried their bicycle. They went through all the houses that have a pumpkin with a candle lit on one side of the mailbox. After more than 40 minutes asking for sweets, they go together to count them to see how many they had. To their surprise, after 20 houses, they very collected 100 sweets, paying six children. As time went by, it got darker, and people put out the candle of the pumpkins that they put outside the house. Harry had the idea for them to separate into groups of two so they could collect more sweets. They all agreed, and that's how it was. They agreed to meet at 12 in the park where they meet at nightfall to count their sweets and distribute them. It was already 10 half 10:30, and they had to make the most of their time if they wanted to win a lot of sweets. Harry went in a duo with Carlos, and Javier went with Juan. Carlos and Harry were unlucky because they hardly found houses with the pumpkin. On the other hand, Javier and Juan had better luck. They found a large number of houses with their pumpkin on. Time passed, and it was already 11 o'clock. There was no longer any children asking for sweets were Carlos and Harry. They decided to return so that nothing bad would happen to them. On the way to the park, laughter began to be heard in a distance that they came from back. Harry and Carlos did not pay attention to the laughter because they were talking. They arrived at the park at 11:20, and Javier and Juan were still not there. After waiting a while, Juan and Javier arrived with their friends, happy because they present a horror movie in a house. As they went to Harry's house, they kept hearing louder, but they didn't take much of it as they thought it was something else. Arriving at his house, they all took out their sweets and gathered them, made a pillage, and began to tell a horror story. After eating a lot of sweets, they cannot sleep, and they decide to investigate the house across the street that was supposedly abandoned and scared. They looked for their things to be able go to the abandoned house, but Carlos did not want to go. He said was a bad idea because it's already night, but his friends did not care. However, they convinced him to go, and he could keep all sweets that were left, and without thinking, Carlos said yes. Arriving at the said place, they felt watched and saw someone pass through the window. However, Harry said it was his cat, and that it was nothing else. Before entering the house, they saw a pumpkin full of sweets and took them.
Entering the house, they found money fortunately in perfect condition, but they could not believe it because supposedly the house was abandoned, so it was not logical. Going further in their house, they heard noises from the floor above, and they began to feel very afraid. But they continued to go up the stairs. The sound was clearer, as if a TV was on, and they began to feel more fear. But they kept going up until they reached the place where the sound came from. Arriving in the room, they saw a grandmother rocking, watching TV with Harry's cat. They were shocked. The grandmother was already waiting for them to enter her house since before she had heard that the children were saying that the house seemed supposedly haunted and abandoned. She let, it, she let them into the that the house was haunted. The children with great curiosity asked him his name and why they said that the house was abandoned. The grandmother introduced herself. Her name is Maria and explained the situation to them as to why they say the house was abandoned. The house was never abandoned simply because of age Maria could not go outside and always stayed inside her house and wait the passage of time some lights went out and for this she uses candles in some parts of her house, but that the exterior cannot be seen, and that is why they say that the house was abandoned. The children wish greater tranquility, return home and feel asleep. Not every time they pass in front of Maria, the children greet her and read Bunting. This story is not over yet. End.